Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I say one thing here. You are not a victim. May have gone through some things in your life. A lot of us adopt what's called a victim mentality, just like, woe's me, look at what's going on with me. But it really doesn't serve you, and it also doesn't help move your life forward and help you heal from many different things. And we're going to center on that today. She is a certified mental health coach, Christian life coach, and instructor. She does so much. Cheryl Hines is back with us today. Cheryl, how you doing today?
I'm great, Steve. How about yourself?
Well, doing well. By the way, I got to tell
Good.
you, I love the color that you have on. It
Thank you.
pops. Like it's like positive energy. It really is. It looks good on you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Why
Thank you.
why do a lot of us look at ourselves as victims and let that marinate? Calling up a friend and just going back and forth. Look, you're not going to believe what happened. And I think when we think about those people, it's the same people always do the same kind of thing. But why do we do it? Why do we say we're victims?
Honestly, many times I don't think we realize that we're portraying as a victim. We've had trauma, we've had things happen in our lives, and we focus on the trauma. We sit in the trauma. And so out of that trauma is how we respond. So it's that victim mentality. I can't believe they did this to me again. It's all, they said this to me again. They hurt me again. And it might be Joe Blow down the street, and it might be Mary down the road. It might be different people, but it's the same thought process. And we think and we sit on, it's their fault. If they wouldn't treat me, if they wouldn't respond that way, if they wouldn't do that, then I wouldn't respond this way. So it's, I don't know that we even realize we have that victim mentality, but so many times we do. I can tell you story after story of different people that have been in that place, and I've called them out on them. Believe it or not, I have.
Well, sometimes somebody needs a wake-up call and don't realize it. But then we also have the enablers. So you could call up a friend, something happened. You call up a friend and you're just, you're just rolling. I can't believe this is what's going on. This again, this person did this again. And a lot of times they'll feed into it and they just keep it moving forward. And it's almost as if when you talk to the same people again, call it 2 weeks later, 2 days later, whatever, it's the same position. you're spilling as a victim and they're kind of feeding into it. I guess everybody loves gossip. Loves to deal with that drama, but it doesn't serve either one of you.
No. I think what's hard, Steve, is understanding and recognizing the victim mentality and then knowing how to get out of that victim mentality. It goes back to what we think. It goes back to what we focus on. I could say that I was a victim of verbal, emotional, mental, psychological abuse. I was a victim to that. And so because of that, the way I responded to my children's father and many other people was in that victim mentality. Look at me. Why am I not good enough? Why don't they like me? I use this example to somebody today. Years ago, back in the early 90s, I lived in Huntsville, Alabama, and I worked with the youth group at our church. Well, there was other couples that were part of the youth group, leaders as well. They lived closer to the church. We lived further away. The youth attended to hang out at their house a lot more than they did at our house. Well, what's wrong with me? I can't believe that these kids would rather go to that couple than they would come to our house. I was playing the victim role because of the insecurities of my own life. Okay. And so because of that, I thought that they didn't like me. I thought that they preferred the other couple over me. Now, was that true? I don't know. I mean, that was in the 90s. I don't even know where those kids are now. But the truth was, I was living in that victim mentality because I didn't know who I was. My identity, my security of who I am as a Christian is that who God says I am is that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. That's my identity. He is my bedrock. He is my foundation of everything that I am. So I no longer live in that mentality. Even though I was a Christian back in the 90s, I lived in that victim mentality because I didn't know who I was. And I didn't understand that these kids might prefer to go over there, and it's okay. So why do we live in that victim mentality? I think so much of it comes from the pain of their own trauma. They've not processed the pain of their trauma. They've not walked through the pain to get victory on the other side. And they sit in the trauma because that is their identity. It's like an addict, okay? An addict will know that they want to get free, but yet they're secure in what they know. They're secure in that high every single day. And so even though they want freedom from that high, they go back to that high because that is what they know. Now, a lot of times they started using because of the abuse or the trauma of their past. Now they're stuck in this cycle of using because of the fear of what it's going to do when they get out of the addiction, because of the unknown of what's on the other side, because then they know they have to face the trauma and they have to face the shame and they have to face the guilt. And I think it's the same way with a victim. They're comfortable being where they are, even though they don't like it. That's what they know. And so they don't want to walk outside of that box of victim mentality because they're afraid. They're afraid of, well, how will that work? Or there's another gal that I work with who says, so I just have to pretend that nothing ever happened. No, that's not what I'm saying. It happened. Trauma happened. The abuse happened. You were a victim of whatever it is. But it does processing through, allowing God to come in and bring healing to those broken places, walking out of the fear, walking out of the guilt and out of the shame, gives them freedom, and then it opens doors so that they no longer have to be that victim. Make sense?
Yeah. And I never thought of it that way. When somebody centers on being a victim, that there's probably something deeper going on there. It's not that something just happened and they're spewing to friends, oh, I can't believe what that person did. It runs deeper than that. It's the insecurities. It's maybe they dealt with a trauma in the past that may be somewhat similar, and that's why it feels comfortable. Or maybe it's a totally different situation, but the common thread is the trauma they dealt with, and they're verbalizing it in a different way, but it feels comfortable in their mind. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's the past coming back in a different, repurposed in a different way. Nobody else knows it, but they feel some kind of comfort from just spewing all this stuff out.
Right. And I believe that's the root of so much of the victim mentality. It's that mindset. It's, they're comfortable in it. It's like I don't know, your most favorite pair of sweats and sweatshirt. You're comfortable in it, and that's what you gravitate towards, even though they might be gnarly looking, even though, or maybe I'm not supposed to say that word anymore, but even though they're ugly, they're not, but yet they're comfortable.
Yeah.
And so, you could go and buy a brand new pair of sweats that look a lot better, but they're not comfortable. And so you're not going to wear them and so we get comfortable in where we are. We get comfortable in our setting, in our situation, in where we are. And we stay there because it's comfortable. And sometimes we don't even know how to get, we don't know how to get out of it. We don't know how to get unstuck. We don't know how to move forward. It's back to choices, back to identifying, back to walking out of the denial of our past, walking into newness and freedom, but it goes back to choices. We all constantly make a choice. We make a choice to drink water. We make a choice to not drink water. We make a choice to drive the car. We make a choice to not drive the car. We make a choice what time we go to bed. We make a choice what time we get up in the morning. And it's the same way when we start identifying the past, the trauma, and making a choice. Today, I'm going to seek help. Today, I'm going to make a different choice. Today, I'm going to focus on the glass being half full instead of half empty. And today, I'm going to think about how I'm going to respond. And I'm not going to respond in the way that I did. I'll give you another example.
Sure.
Darren and I, my husband and I, great marriage. Now, me personally, I know that I have had anger issues in the past because of the verbal emotional junk that was in my life. And so my outlet was pouring out in anger. I didn't punch walls, I didn't throw things, but it was verbally abusive, okay? It just was. Now that I know that, I can choose how I'm going to respond. Now, this is a crazy little story, but one particular Sunday morning, I needed to know from my husband that he thought I was beautiful, right? And I had worn a nice dress. I was ready for church. I had put my makeup on, and I looked and I asked him, I said, "Hey, babe, how do I look?" "Fine." That was his response. "Fine." Now, how am I going to respond? Am I going to respond in a negative way? In that victim mentality way? Well, you don't ever say fine. You don't ever say I'm beautiful. You don't. And I started laughing and I said, "Fine, fine. I'm fine. I look fine." And then I looked at him and I said, "You know what, babe? You know what I needed? I needed to hear from you that I looked beautiful." And he's like, "You are beautiful." He's never done that since then. He will randomly say to me, "Cheryl, I love you and I think you're beautiful. You look really nice today." I had a choice at that particular moment to choose to say to him and get gnarly, get ugly, I don't know why I'm using that word today, but get ugly with him.
It's gonna come back. I'm telling you right now.
I'm sure it will. To get ugly with him, or to, in a way, kind of make a joke about how he responded, because I knew what I needed. He didn't know what I needed, but then I told him what I needed. See, so it was that choice. It was that choice of making a decision how I was going to respond to what he said. And it's the same way when you're in a victim mentality spot. Somebody calls you and chews you out over the phone because you did something wrong. My eyes are watering too. You did something wrong. Well, you can go into victim mode and say, "Well, why are you doing this to me? Why are you responding this to me? For everything that I've ever done for you, and you're going to call me up and you're going to chew me out?" Or, okay, what I'm hearing you say to me that you wish I would have said this a little bit differently. And I will consciously make a choice and choose to think about how I respond in the future. Victim mentality, or choosing how I'm going to respond. And it's the same way with everything in life. That victim mentality of, "They cut me off. Man, that really ticks me off. And I can't believe that they did that to me." Or, as you said one time, Steve, I wonder what's going on in their lives. Maybe they didn't see me. Maybe they didn't see that I was right there. Or maybe they really needed to get over there and they thought they had space.
We don't know the story. We don't know the backstory. And same thing with your husband. And that's like I'm backing up guys here. But in his mind, the word fine may mean that you're all it. And if you
Yeah.
put the word fine and said, you look fine, it could mean something different. You know,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the intent that you wanted to hear, but I don't believe guys are saying anything negative by saying fine. I get I get the perception from a woman, but he means, yeah, you look great. But he didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize that, and he didn't do it in the way that you wanted to hear it. So yeah,
Right.
you changed it up. You made the choice to communicate and ask for what you needed. And I was like, man, for him, wake up call. Oh yeah, I could say that. People don't realize that, till they know.
Right. Right. And it's choosing whether you're going to be a victim or you're going to be a victorious. I chose to be victorious over that situation. I chose to let him know what I needed from him and say to him, not in a nasty way, but in a fun, loving way, this is what I need from you. Um, Victim, victorious. Which pathway do I want to live in? I'll tell you, I want to live in the victorious pathway, not in the victim pathway, because that victim pathway does nothing but bring you down all the time.
Yeah.
You don't have any joy, peace. You're always in, I shouldn't say always. I don't like the word always and never. But most times you live in this depressive place of thinking negative thoughts and the poor me, and instead of this place of, oh wow, I would rather choose to live in this place of joy and peace, even if I have to tell Darren what I need from him. Why not tell him? He's a man, he doesn't get it most of the
Get it.
time.
He didn't understand, that's
He
what
didn't.
you needed. You know,
Right.
I don't think there was any negativity, and I've gotten the fine discussion myself, so I'm right there with you. I understand, and going back to what you said, Cheryl, about making choices when you're a victim and you're on the phone. Example, you're on the phone with a friend and you're explaining maybe about another friend. Can you believe what they did? Like, "Ugh, again, blah 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 blah." You're choosing, again, making a choice to allow that person to control you and your emotions and make you feel like a victim. Maybe they don't even care. You
Mm-hmm.
allowed the situation to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it was a horrible situation. I'm not taking anything away, but you have a choice whether you want to allow that to take place and control you or not. And sometimes we need to vent, but then vent and move on, instead of,
Right.
because I can even think of some friends that my conversations with them are all about somebody else. Oh, can you believe this person did this? And then you think back that whole conversation, where was the positive in that conversation?
Mm-hmm.
And even if you
Mm-hmm.
change direction and got off the victim platform for the moment and segged into something else during that phone call, it's usually tainted already because you started out
Mm-hmm.
negative about the can you believe what they did situation. So yeah, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
We have the choice. We have the choice of how we want it to go.
We do. And then, so for me as a coach, especially as a coach, when I coach somebody, and they're talking about life situations, whether it's with a marriage or whether it's with a friend, turning it around and in having them look at themselves, turning it around and saying, well, what about this has bothered you? So, when somebody comes in as a victim, my question oftentimes is, what about that bothers you? What about that has caused you to have a sleepless night? Can you control what that other person does? Can you can you do anything about how that other person responded? And 9 times out of 10, their response is no. And then I asked, so who can you control? Well, me. Yes. And then how do you control how do you control that? What do you do when somebody does this? What do you do when somebody comes against you in this way? If it's abuse, well, then that's a totally different situation than somebody cutting them off in traffic.
Right.
It's two totally different situations. So if somebody cuts you off in traffic and that really just totally flips their lid and they just get so angry, could you control what that person did? No. Who do you control? Me. So what about that person cutting you off made you so angry? Well, it reminded me of, okay. So let's talk about what it reminded you of. Let's talk about why you are responding to that person cutting you off back here with what happened with your dad.
And it could
with
be
what happened with your mom.
Hypothetical here. It could be you didn't feel respected by a relationship in your past, and now this person cut you off and they're not respecting you, and the traffic laws and all of that, and right away.
Right. So it's sometimes it's that trigger. And so they're that victim because of that person cut me off, and man, that really ticked me off, and that just really, man, And so let's bring them back. I bring them back to where you are, where they are. What caused that response? Well, so and so didn't respect me. Well, okay. What does respect look like for you? I don't know. What do you want from a person? What do you want from that individual person? Do you want them to respond this way? No. I want them to talk to me kindly. I want them to, whatever the situation is, we can take it out and just unpack so much of why they respond the way they do, and take them out of that victim mentality.
Yeah.
Into living victoriously. It's just, but I believe it's choices. It's how we think about things, then how we process it, how we feel. It's like I said with Rick Warren, what we think is how we feel, and how we feel is how we act. So that victim mentality, I'm thinking that way. I'm thinking that way, so that's how I'm going to act in the end.
Well, you really made a lot of this come very clear, Cheryl, in that many times people who adopt a victim mentality are reacting to something in their past. I never connected the dots on that, but yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. You're back to a comfortable spot, what you feel familiar with. I remember being in a relationship with somebody many years ago, and they had some abuse from their father. And they would always want to start something. And I'm low key chill, let it all roll off. And they would try and press my button because it felt comfortable, because that's what they remember from their childhood. And I'm illustrating that as an example, with the victim mentality. Somebody may be feeling that way or verbalizing situations because it reminds them of something, like you said, in the past, and it feels comfortable, acting like a victim.
Yeah. They go back to what they've known. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't know different, and if we're not shown different, we're always going to go back to what we know.
Right.
If it's like if you had asparagus when you were 4, and you made a decision at the age of 4 that you didn't like asparagus, and now you're 40 and you still have made that decision that you don't like asparagus, but you've never tasted asparagus from the age of 4 to the age of 40. Okay. I mean, that's a crazy analogy, but it's
No.
what you know.
Okay. What do I know? I don't eat seafood. Very little. Why? In my 20s, scallops. They were bad. Bad situation. I could tell you where it was. I do not eat. I mean, maybe calamari every once in a while fried. That's it. And I just don't. But it's because of that situation, and I just don't want to go back to that. It just, probably should need some therapy for seafood, but it's not the worst thing in the world. We're just about out of time. Good talk today, and definitely connecting the dots with a lot. If somebody wants to work with you, Insight Life Coaching, how do they find you? How do they do that?
Well, they can find me on my website, which is insightlifecoaching.coachsolutions.cc, insightlifecoaching.coachsolutions.cc, or they can call me at 574-501-3361.
Gotcha.
So that's 574-501-3361.
And even the time of the year where a lot of us are going through a lot of stuff with the holidays coming on, and perfect time, even with a new year, to make some changes. She's a certified mental health coach, Christian life coach. She's got a lot of insight, without a doubt. Cheryl, thank you so much for being here. And I don't know if we're together next week. Actually, no, we might be, but even before that, happy holidays to you and your family. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. You too, Steve.
Thank you. We'll
See
be
ya.
right back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.